Hi, Mike.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Just happy to be here. We do these shows, and sometimes we're a little nervous that we're not gonna have anything to talk about. But we got big breaking Star Wars news this morning. What was it?
Yeah, kind of a surprise announcement. They're reviving the Star Wars Holiday Special, but in Lego form for Disney Plus on November 17th, which is 42 years to the day after the original Star Wars Holiday Special aired. Much to George Lucas's chagrin. He's since tried to disown it, but now that he doesn't own Lucasfilm anymore, it's out of his hands and they can do it again.
Take that, George Lucas.
But yeah, it's set after the events of The Rise of Skywalker, and it's gonna reunite. You got Rey, Finn, Poe Dameron, Rose Tico, and Chewbacca there. Some of these characters will be voiced by their original actors, according to press releases, but they haven't said which. And then also we'll see like some of the characters from the original holiday special popping up, like Chewbacca's family. And it's not quite as long. It isn't the full 2 hours that the original was. It's 45 minutes, but I'm still looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun.
Did I get a Lego B. Arthur? Can you hear me?
Lose you there?
Can you hear me? I don't know if anyone else can hear me, but any case.
Oh, did I lose you or did you lose me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm here.
I was just wondering if we're going to get a Lego B. Arthur.
They actually asked the producer that in the USA Today interview, and he said he didn't want to spoil anything. So I'm thinking that's a yes.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about this because what I like about the Lego Star Wars is it's like the one part of Star Wars that gets to be non-canon and just have fun with it.
Yeah.
There's canon is kind of the weight of Star Wars that sometimes it has a hard time surmounting. But for some reason, when you put a little brick, like we can't get whatever that shows detours, but we can get Lego Star Wars all we want.
Right.
And, it's the holidays. Might as well have a little fun. I think if we can use anything this year, it's a little fun. So,
yeah, and that's pretty much what that producer was saying on that interview as well, is that he hopes that this injects a little fun into this year. So I totally agree.
Cool. What do you want to talk about next?
We got the Cassian Andor casting reveal. It wasn't officially announced, but the trades kind of leaked that this actress, Adria Arjona, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but she was in Pacific Rim Uprising, and she was in the Wizard of Oz TV show called Emerald City as Dorothy Gale. And she's cast on this live action Cassian Andor TV show coming on Disney Plus. We haven't heard a lot about this series lately, so it's good to know that they are still moving ahead with it. Obviously, the production must be delayed due to the lockdown and everything, but hopefully it'll get back on track soon because I'm looking forward to that one. It's got Tony Gilroy as the showrunner. He was instrumental in bringing Rogue One to the big screen in a couple ways, so I think it'll be pretty good. It's got Diego Luna and Alan Tudyk reprising their roles from the movie.
Yeah, you know what I like about this announcement? And I apologize to the actress. I'm not familiar with her work, but I will be. But it's when they have the casting announcement, it's like it's moving forward. They might not be able to lens anything, but they're still working on developing, getting crew, and all that. So whenever the green light happens, to move forward with production, they, it's not like they're just the whole enterprise is shut down. Nothing's moving forward. Pre-production still happening, so that when they're able to get going, we're not going to have to wait.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, I'm excited for that one for sure.
Cool.
We got the audiobook cast for Star Wars: The Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, which is a collection of short stories. I've actually read most of it already, but we're also getting the audio form. And the book is just going to be read by basically the cast of the Clone Wars, a bunch of those actors, Catherine Tabor, James Arnold Taylor. I didn't see D. Bradley Baker on the list, which I thought was odd because the cover is a clone trooper. But yeah, a bunch of the voice actors coming back to reprise their roles and read the prose as well. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, it's at this point, Star Wars books is kind of the one thing we're going to get, and there's been a couple. So I think it's nice that they're getting a chance in the sun to kind of showcase things like this, and the the Poe Dameron book and the other book, that the Tales from Light and Dark. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Melanie, who is very excited about the Lego special, and it will become a holiday tradition for sure, which you can watch every day on Disney Plus.
Absolutely. I haven't watched a lot of the recent Star Wars Lego animation, and there's a bunch of it on Disney Plus. I think I started one of the Yoda Chronicle things, but I haven't gotten through a lot of it. So maybe I'll check some of that out, like leading up to the release of that special.
Yeah, I've watched some of them, and it's weird. Like they didn't always do a great job promoting when they would pop up on Disney XD or whatever. So I always kind of felt confused about like if I've seen it. I did watch the Star Wars Lego The Freemaker Adventures, which I thought was a lot of fun. But the sort of Yoda tales and the C3P droid tales, and I just got a little confused as to where I was.
Yeah.
Because they those were happening kind of before Disney's acquisition and then after, and so I wasn't really paying attention before. But then when I started paying attention, I was out of my element.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed the video games, and that next video game that's coming out. I saw a preview of that at E3 back when there was E3, and that looked pretty cool. It kind of spans the whole Skywalker saga. They played that game for like 45 minutes while I watched, so it was pretty neat. And then we got Jeremiah found the Baby Yoda, aka the child, in-universe plush toy at Black Spire Outpost.
I had a picture of that all ready to go, but I lost it. So hang on.
Sure. Yeah, this is just a cool addition to the Toydarian toy maker shop at Galaxy's Edge, and I know people were looking for the child in that shop even way back when the Mandalorian first premiered. So I'm sure they just are fulfilling demand with creating this toy.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we talked about how we were wondering how Galaxy's Edge will deal with new Star Wars content.
Yeah,
and I don't know that. I guess I don't know. I don't want to overcomplicate storytelling by trying to explain how the child is in his toy shop. But I think it's neat that they're able to do it in the Galaxy's Edge style, but it still be something that's fresh and new, as opposed to being kind of stuck with opening day merchandise lines, which was concerning when I first opened, because it's like usually, as storytelling evolves, if it's not as whatever, in universe as like the Frozen attraction, you go on the Frozen attraction, that's the same, but you go to the store that's at the exit, and it's going to have whatever's new. Whereas when you're more limited into how you're presenting your merchandise, I was like, how many versions of Sabak can you have?
Well, I think like previously they've said that the characters represented in those plush dolls being sold in that shop are characters that would be famous within the Star Wars universe. So I think we can assume that the Mandalorian and the child go undercover as like a progressive prog rock band in season 2 and become famous, and famous enough to have plush dolls made out of them.
And famous as the child, not whatever it ends up being named, but the child.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll pick that up as soon as the park opens here in Southern California. For sure.
And it's cute too. I mean, it's it's a neat little. Some of those characters are done in that style better than others.
Absolutely.
So you got some comic news, right?
Yeah, we had a couple of new comics over the last couple of weeks. Actually, they're coming out about once a week. I think there's 1 week coming up where there's not an issue, but roughly once a week we're getting a new Star Wars comic again, which I'm really excited about because they were just getting going in the spring when everything shut down and they stopped publication on all the Marvel comics for months. In fact, it was I think like a 5-month gap between the last issues of the main Star Wars title and Star Wars Darth Vader as pictured there. So they're finally coming out again, and they've been really good. Greg Pak is writing Darth Vader, and that one is about Vader looking to figure out exactly what happened to Padme after the last time he saw her on Mustafar. Because, the Emperor told him one thing, and he's kind of starting to figure out maybe that wasn't the whole truth. So he's investigating that. He goes back to Naboo, and we see some characters that we hadn't seen in continuity for decades worth of continuity. So it's cool to catch up with them, and there's some conflict there, obviously. And then in Star Wars, the main title, Luke is looking for his lightsaber that he's lost in the battle with Darth Vader at the end of Empire. And that leads him to having Force visions that he follows and meets up with another character that we had seen much earlier in continuity, but in the comic books, who was created by Charles Soule for one of the Darth Vader series that had come out previously. And that's pretty interesting too. So a lot of interesting stuff happening in the Marvel comic Star Wars world.
So I got a couple things to say. I haven't read the books because I have to do Marvel time, so I have enough comics on my plate. But when you sent me a picture from the Star Wars book of Luke Skywalker talking about how much he loves sand,
yeah,
which I thought was amazing.
Yeah,
and
as soon as I got to that gag, I was like, "This is pretty funny," and they know what they're doing. It's kind of a wink moment, like, "Oh, okay, Luke has the opposite opinion of his father about sand."
Which, if it was in a movie, it would just be like a groan moment.
Yes,
but because it's a comic book, and it's just a word bubble. Like it's just fun. But I also love this cover of Darth Vader. I think number 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's I think it's supposed to be Padme in the cover, although he doesn't interact with Padme in the book. It's kind of like a metaphor of her memories getting taken away from him, I guess.
Yeah, and the ability to make Darth Vader look sensitive, like it's still the mask, but like it's almost like he seems sad in this picture. And
that's
I can't
true.
say why, but he does.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that these Darth Vader comics do really well is give us a little bit more insight into what's going through Vader's mind during the period of the original trilogy, because at least in the first 2 movies, he's mostly just a straight villain, and we don't really get inside his head at all. So this is really kind of fleshing out what his emotions are and tying it in, of course, to the events of the prequels and stuff. So
and those things were always, obviously if you saw A New Hope, you'd be like, okay, he's just the dark villain. But if you see it within this, the trilogy, that's in him, because he didn't just suddenly go like, oh snap, the Emperor's bad, I'm gonna go switch, like in 10 seconds. Like there was always an element of doubt and sort of sensitivity that he might be pressing down, but there was always a seed there, or it wouldn't make any sense. Pure like the Emperor would not be redeemed, but Darth Vader, it was always sort of he was being manipulated by the Emperor, so it's different, and so it's nice to kind of, while it wouldn't play well if you kind of did it as a movie thing. Like Darth Vader needs to be scary in the movies.
Right.
In a medium like comic books, where that's always been there, and you can do things like thought bubbles and other things that you can't do in a movie. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I always think of that moment at the very end of Return of the Jedi where Vader is like looking back and forth between Luke and Emperor Palpatine when he's like giving him the Force lightning, and you can kind of start to see like the cracks. Through that mask, you see his mind starting to get changed, and this is more of that too, where you can kind of read his emotion through the mask.
And that's what I love about Return of the Jedi is, I know it's compared to Empire, it's kind of viewed down upon, but that the stuff that happens in the Emperor's throne room, where seeing the sort of evolution of Darth Vader's redemption, I think is so cool. Because it doesn't just happen. Somehow they're able to get that performance out of a mask of looking back and forth and kind of what he's thinking somehow, and I think that's cool. But I digress.
Agreed.
So I'm sorry you're not going to be able to go to Star Wars Celebration this year, but you are participating in something else, right?
Yeah, so as you know, as many people know, Star Wars Celebration was supposed to take place in just a couple weeks right here in Southern California, the Anaheim Convention Center. I was really excited for it. It had only been a year since the last one. April 2019 was Chicago, but I have such a great time at those events, just between getting to see all the panels and getting to see all the fans and the cosplay, and there's always the 501st Stormtrooper party, which I've enjoyed for the last 3 events quite a bit. But of course, there's the whole pandemic and the lockdown thing, and they canceled it, which wasn't a big surprise because San Diego Comic-Con got canceled, South by Southwest, so many of these big events. There's really none of them happening this year. But some of our friends over at Skywalking Through Neverland took the initiative to set up this virtual Star Wars convention called ForceFest, which is taking place entirely online, much like San Diego Comic-Con at home did this year. Except this one is going to be all live, which is way more difficult, and I'm very impressed with how they're putting all this together. So this is going to be August 28th through the 30th, and you can go to ForceFest Saga on Twitter to find out more. They also have a Facebook page. And yeah, they've got a bunch of content creators and podcasters. I know like J.W. Rinsler, the guy who wrote those big, thick coffee table books about the making of Star Wars. I think he did the entire original trilogy and the entire prequel trilogy. And then he started writing The Force Awakens and they canceled that book. But he's going to be doing a presentation. That'll be the one that I'm most excited to see because I'm very curious about how that guy's mind works. Those books are fantastic. And then, yeah, there's just a bunch of other content on there, more than I could list right now. But I'm involved. Yeah, I'll have my own panel, which is just going to be an episode of the Laughing Place Star Wars podcast, Who's the Boss? And there's a very cool guest. I think I could probably announce it now. I haven't mentioned it anywhere else, but I've been communicating with him via email, and he seems really enthusiastic. And his name is D Tales, which I didn't know about him before, and I feel bad about that. But he was introduced to me as a potential guest, and he worked on a bunch of the Disney era Star Wars movies. He's based in the UK, and he's a creature performer, and he's in Maz Kanata's castle. He's done a bunch of stuff with those movies, and he just seems like a real fun character, and he's going to have a lot of fun stories to tell about the sequels, and I think he's in Rogue One as well.
That's great. I look forward to hearing that. And do you have who's your next Who's the Boss regular installment?
This coming week. What's that?
Are you able to share? I don't know if it's
yeah, that's fine. No, it's already recorded, that one, actually. So this past Wednesday was Alex Segura, who wrote Star Wars Poe Dameron Free Fall, the novel, which I just read and enjoyed a couple weeks ago. And then next week's going to be George Mann, another Star Wars author who wrote Star Wars Myths and Fables and Star Wars Dark Legends. And I really enjoyed talking to both of those guys. They both seem like really genuine, nice guys and big Star Wars fans, and just guys that you could probably talk to for hours and hours. But I just did little like half-hour interviews with both of them. They're going to be on the Who's the Boss podcast. Great.
So you got a lot. You're finding a way to find the Force even in these dark times.
Yeah, well, the reason why I started that podcast at the beginning of this year is because I thought it was going to be such an interesting year for Star Wars because the sequel trilogy was over. There weren't any movies that we knew of that were really officially announced yet, or we didn't know what they were going to be. At least we had the dates that were like years in the future, but no details. And what we had was a whole bunch of this ancillary material coming out from the publishing world and other sources that, The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. And I just thought, like, this is getting back to what I really love about Star Wars, which is the smaller scale stories that kind of go deeper into the underworld of Star Wars and stuff like that. So I think you can still do that under these circumstances, which is the great thing. We've still got The Mandalorian season 2 coming out. They were able to finish up the post-production and stuff on that. And we still got all the comics and novels, though the comics had to pause for a little while. We're still getting all that content pretty much. So I think that the train's going to keep moving along, thankfully.
Yeah, well, thanks for all you do to share what's going on, even in these times, because sometimes you it's not as obvious, right? Like, and especially when it comes to books and comic books, there's great stuff happening, but we don't necessarily know as much about it because it's not a big $2 billion movie,
right? Yeah, and I mean, in a way, I'm really, really thankful that I get to do this kind of stuff for a living, because I don't know that I would have read something like Put Hammer in Free Fall on my own. Like that book probably would have fell outside of the umbrella of the Star Wars that I'm really interested in. But I'm glad I picked it up and I enjoyed it, and it kind of forces me to consume more and more Star Wars, which is never a bad thing.
Well, thanks, Mike. You're actually going to be on vacation starting tomorrow, so I hope you have a wonderful vacation.
Yeah, just doing a quick 5-day weekend, kind of take a breather.
But we'll be back next week, and I guess right before ForceFest, so we'll maybe have some stuff to talk about from there. So
as that ramps up, we're going to be talking about that more on Who's the Boss. And actually, like, Rich and Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland are going to come back on the show the week leading up to ForceFest to do like a preview episode and talk about all the fun stuff they have planned.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Mike, and have a wonderful vacation.
Great. Thank you. See you soon.
Bye.